Hey Bonehawks, this video is all about the Bonehawk podcast. We are back, Hatyr and I. Such positive feedback from the last one. We're going to try and do this a little bit more regularly. We go into this at kind of the end of the podcast, but I did want to kind of put this up front. We're probably going to start the next one with a reading your comments section because we had such good feedback on the last one. So any comments that you, or anything that you think you would like featured on the next one, just comment down below. We'll pick our favorites. We're going to go into there. So we're talking about Ermac today and a little bit of Mavado and some things that have kind of happened since our last one. The Janet patch being a little fiasco. What changes are coming? We've already been hinted at some stuff. But yeah, sit down. If you enjoy this type of thing, let me know. Leave a like and all that stuff. And we'll probably be back pretty soon with another one. So let's get into it.
Accept your death.
Talking about Ermac and the way that you kind of described the little Red Riding Hood hood that he has, and since then we've actually seen a trailer which still kind of looks like that same kind of hood.
It's the exact same hood. The only
Yeah.
difference is that he's got a mask now. It's needed to complete the whole thing. Now it's not silly anymore. It looks badass. But you can't have a hood like that with no mask. That's the lesson here.
I think that's what every like Ermac main or Mortal Kombat fan was saying, like, put a mask on that man, you know, and they did that.
It's not just because he's ugly, right? It's not. It's got to be part of his garb,
Like,
especially if you're going to be putting a little granny hood on him like that.
it just shapes the whole head of the character, in my opinion, you know, because otherwise it looks like his face was just too like sunken in there, you know, like he's hiding in this hood.
Well, now they just got to do something about the open-toed shoes, and he'll look perfect. Because other than that, I think he looks badass. Wouldn't change a thing, really. Like,
yeah, I agree.
uh,
I definitely agree with you on that one. His redesign in total is just good, and like his moves, and even down to the things like the changing of the color from like the stark green to like this almost kind of like tealy color. I don't know, just
it's a green that's got more. It's more blue heavy than yellow heavy or whatever, right? It reminds me of like if you're a painter, like phthalo green.
yeah.
Like a real bluish green. Yeah,
I know exactly what you're
very
talking about.
ethereal.
Yeah,
And looks like goo, like Slimer types, like it's been like in the past, right? Like that color, that yellowish greenish
like
glowy
Ghostbusters kind of
stuff.
a
And
thing.
man, they really like upgraded everything, right? So he's still kind of got like the three souls, and you see the orbs sometimes, but then they manifest in actual fucking dudes.
I know.
With
That's
his
so
fatal
cool.
blow and stuff. Like
Was
they really didn't.
that
I don't know
was
about you. Tell me if you feel like the same way. But like when I was watching that, I kind of was like, whatever, because people feel kind of ho hum about like what's happening, and I feel like there's a lot of like cautious optimism and stuff. But
right?
myself included. But when I was watching that, and just the kind of ripple effect from a few of the things, I'm sure we'll get to in that trailer. But man, I got like feelings in my belly like I did during that Reptile Ashra reveal trailer, right? That's like pre-release. That was I can pinpoint that exact moment in time where it's like, okay, I'm actually excited for this game now, instead of like, well, we'll see what happens,
Right.
right? I
Yeah.
feel that kind of like on that level.
It was, I don't know. I'm not the hugest Ermac fan, and like most people know that about me. But I think this is the best design yet for him. Like even the way he summons the souls as actual physical beings now, instead of like just these little swirly balls. Like have the hands reach down and grab you, or like that one dude who's like holding you upside down in the air. Like that's so badass. I love that. That's such a cool thing. Like an upgrade I never even would have thought to give him.
Right, so he does like the little like air teleport cancel after the hang, right? And I think that's probably like a little meter build thing, even though we can't see a UI, but it's also, I feel like a showcase of like, all right, you've got like 50 to 70 frames of hit advantage probably. And if that's the case, the first place my brain goes into is like, oh, he can do frost orb setups. I'm sure he's going to have them off of something like that, as long
Oh
as he can
yeah.
like end his combo that way, right? Set something up. It's not like going to be something he can't land too late or
Right. Exactly.
sacrifices X amount or something. But he looks like he's going to have dirt. But you and I were kind of talking about this. I noticed that Aaron Davis has been retweeting all the Ermac stuff, and he does work for NRS, and I do see him retweeting some stuff like here and there. But I'm pretty sure that he's on the Ermac development team, like the character design
Yeah,
team.
I definitely am. I'm certain of that. Same idea. You know, I've seen retweets here and there, but the Ermac stuff is a little bit excessive in his normal tweeting activity.
And it seems like his kind of character, right? Like a little tricky and some intricacies and stuff, and definitely some Enchantress vibes in there. Him,
Oh, 100%.
he was involved in that character. There's a there's a couple kind of like I almost feel like nods to Enchantress's design with a couple of like his animations. We even have like a little MK version of Zabulba, like in that one. It's like a special move or something, right? That big demon that comes out
Right,
opposite
right.
side
Yeah.
in the middle of that combo, whether that's a special or what's going on.
Yeah, and
Uh,
like even like it looks we don't know again because of the lack of the UI, but it looked like there was kind of like Enchantress's down 2 move for those that might remember where she starts glowing and then instead of taking physical damage, she just loses her meter instead. Again, we don't know if that's what's happening, but they do know that he's kind of had a similar glow that she has in that instance.
Exactly, and even if the mechanic's not the same, let's just say it increases damage or something. It's just kind of like reminds me of her. These are like general things, right? They could apply to a lot of things, but I don't know. He's got that also like kind of soul pillar move. It looks like it's like a meterless launcher, and the way that he moves his arms totally looks like her forward three. Only he's like summoning down this big soul pillar instead of the demon fist.
Right.
But just vibes, right? Like that's all pretty broad. Not necessarily might be the Charlie Day meme. I meant like the cork board,
Oh,
looking
yeah.
like he's had a couple pots of coffee, like all the yarn.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, you're
uh,
not wrong though. I mean, and it's not like NRS has never reused assets before from games. You know, like there was the whole Terminator Down 3 being the same as Jason's and that kind of a thing. So I mean,
well, even if they did it on purpose, right? Like it's I think it's like a song where like they're giving a nod to somebody or something, right? Like stylistically.
yeah, no, definitely, and I like that. I like that kind of reference style. But I mean, he looks like he's going to be absolutely sick. It'll be interesting to see his frame data. But the one thing, and I know I'm pretty sure you picked this out because this is one of the first things that I noticed, is it looks like his movement speed is absolute garbage. Like from the little bits that I saw in the trailer, and maybe that's because he has more mobility and stuff. It just looked
Bro,
like he was like molasses, bro.
I'm not even, and I'm sure that might be part of like his design, but I heard somebody say like they can't decide whether he's floating or standing, and this I like went back and rewatched it, and like while he's idle, he's standing on the ground, but anytime he moves, his feet are lifted off the ground. So at the very beginning of that trailer, when I first watched it, I was like, oh my god, his backdash is awful, but it was really just him walking backwards, right? But just the way the
Right.
animation is, it's just how it struck me at first. But that's just him walking around. So who even knows? And maybe that's how they'll balance some of the his toolkit,
Yeah.
right? Like anybody play Killer Instinct like Hisako, just the slowest moving character in the history of like fighting games. And
Yeah.
like, but with like the craziest fucking dash and the craziest command grab or whatever. But anyway,
Well, I've said this in previous videos too, is like a lot of the times you can get like little hints at what a character likes to do by looking at their movement speed, at least in NRS games. Like Quan Chi, for example, his back walk speed is not as good as his forward walk speed, and Baraka is the vice versa kind of a thing. So they kind of give you a little bit of a hint in the movement, and I'm sure that's kind of a balance thing as well, right? To not make them too overpowered to be able to get to where they optimally want to be. Make you earn that a
right.
little bit.
I'm thinking a lot about that, right? Because you mentioned Baraka. Anytime Baraka touches you, and through his variety of combo enders, he's just got so much corner carry, right? Like
Yeah.
one touch mid screen, and some not quite coast to coast, but he definitely has some shit that'll get him like really far. And I don't know if you know this, but I play Melina.
Oh,
Um,
no way.
but she doesn't really have that sort of like same corner carry, right? Lots of side switch and ball roll side switches, and then you can side switch back with ending in a ball roll or whatever. But it's almost like a cat playing with a mouse, like playing with its food, right? Just like lobbing you around. And when you do get to the corner, then it's game on because she's very strong in the corner, but she's not doesn't have that inherent corner carry. So you can just kind of tell by these combo paths, right? Kind of what you're rooting from all of that as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, my experience playing Molina is usually just getting poked to death. as you know, but poor slow old
Mm,
Quan Chi.
right, not like crazy rush down, right? But staggers and just kind of like annoying you and picking away at you little by little, and then she absolutely has the damage, right? A good hit confirm or
Yeah.
the ways that she can. But we're getting off the Ermac topic here.
Yeah. So I
Let
mean, like, and that whole trailer was kind of funky. So I want to go in a little bit of an order here, so we don't get too chaotic. But I think we can move on to, unless you have any other thoughts about Ermac, I want to kind of talk about Mavado because he's one of the cameos that I was the most excited for. Over the years, I've said numerous times, I think he's such a cool, unique character, and that they would be dumb to never bring him back. And they did, and he looks pretty fantastic. I wanted to get your thoughts on kind of his overall just look and design. You know, like when he comes out in that intro or whatever, or outro, whichever one they showed first, with Ermac. Like, what did you think about like that design choice they went with?
I've got some. I get big like Trevor Belmont vibes from him. Do you know who that is
I
from
don't.
Castlevania?
Okay,
The vampire hunter from Castlevania.
makes
Like
sense.
he definitely has that sort of like energy. He's got, the whatever that's supposed to be. Is that elastic bands? Like what's happening? Like what is
That's yeah. They never actually explicitly said what it is, but that certainly is what it looks like, doesn't it? The elastic band man. He's just zooming around the map. I mean, that's so cool. I just think that's idea. I've never
he's
would have
got the
thought of
opposite
that.
of like chains and whips or whatever, but he looks really versatile. He looks really like a lot of people pointed out, it looks like he probably only has that we saw one summon out of like the 5 or 6 different things that he had. I noticed that the forward throw you get with him leaves you really, really close, like Tremor.
Oh, okay,
So,
I didn't notice that.
well, at first I wasn't sure if that was the throw or not. There was so much going on, and that's another thing about Ermac is that throw animation. What the? It looks like Quan Chi standing too, which is also a high, right? So this is like a theme now with both MK DLC characters that they have highs. I'm assuming the grab is going to be a high, but it looks like he's,
Looks like a mid.
Carl sent this little meme to me about, Ermac cupping his opponent's nuts in the palm of his hand, right? He's like, what's this move? It's like that sort of thing, a little nut scratcher.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Would they? I have no idea. I don't know why they choose these animations for those types of moves, but
Dude, isn't that the weirdest animation for a throw, like in an NRS game?
and it's weird because they've never done that before. Like they've never taken one character and given them their own unique throw animation unless it's been something like a command grab or something like that. So it's easily discernible. So it is an interesting choice, and I'm wondering. I feel like there's got to be a reason behind that, maybe, because like that can't be
Well,
his
I'm
only
sure it's
thing.
super deliberate, right? It's going to be part of his, to make his throw a little bit more of a threat,
Yeah, you can't
or
can't
kind of
beat
add a
it.
little mental stack, sort of thing.
Yeah, which will be interesting. I'm not usually a fan of grapplers or any sort of those grappling types of things, so I mean, I probably won't like it, but we'll see how interesting they can do it with the character, I guess. Something
I don't
different.
think he will be. I mean, he could end up, I feel like every character's kind of got an element of strike throw as like a really ongoing theme.
Yeah, and it has been for since fighting games ever began. So I mean,
Right.
that'll still be part of the thing. He looks to me more like a combo and setup kind of character. I think a character that will probably work really well with the cameo system, which has really been most DLC characters so far, from what I can tell. I mean, I know that Quan has good synergy with quite a few, and Peacemaker. I mean, that you could literally use any cameo. I'm sure he could. He's just strong as it is. So
Yeah. 20 minutes after release on Tuesday, after Ermac's release, I bet the height for him gets cut in half once people have their hands on the frame data, can actually,
right.
move around with him and stuff like that and try to like he looks super sick, and then somebody's hand that's going to put in the work. I bet he's going to require work, and he's going to have, dude, with combos like that, I would imagine the balance come is going to come through scaling. Like just have to like work your ass off for 30% or something like that, like MKX sometimes.
Yeah, no, and to be honest, if I like a character, I prefer that in a character because I want a character that is kind of challenging to play, that's rewarding when I actually get things done, and it's not easy enough for people to
Well,
just dogpile on them, right? And then like
I,
like everyone's playing Peacemaker because he's super
right,
easy, right?
exactly. We were kind of talking about that, right? Like when, leading up to the trailer, we knew it was coming, and I have an interest in Ermac and stuff, but I was like saying to you, I was like, man, I hope he's like mid tier. Like, I do not want him to
Yeah.
be S tier. I just don't want every fucking match to be him, right? And then it's just like nothing but mirror matches and stuff, right? Well, I want you like, you work for it, but you can win. I definitely prefer that sort of
Yeah.
character. Remember how excited I was for Sindel DLC and MK11, and like
Oh
a
yeah.
week after she was released, and oh my god, and just the way that people were talking about her and stuff. I was like, nope, I'm just no.
I'm good. Thanks.
Bad vibes here. Like
Yeah.
I'm not looking for any of that.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely. I agree with you. That's how I feel too. But going back to Mavado real quick, I want to talk about.
oh yeah, yeah.
We got sidetracked a little bit there. We do that, old men. I want to talk about his moves because it looks like he had, like you mentioned, his throw, and then he has like kind of different positions, kind of like one where he comes from the sky, kind of a thing. And then he has this new like mine move, which, if I'm not mistaken, I
Predator
think it's
trap. That
an.
looks like a predator trap.
That's exactly what it looks like, and it's an
Yeah,
ambush too. I think, correct? So, um,
it looks like an ambush.
so I mean that could be really, really strong, and depending also if that's a low, like a true low, like it. I mean, it looks like it should be, but NRS does that kind of stuff all the time, right? So it could be a mid. It's definitely not a high. I would be absolutely shocked if it was a high, but
In a game like this, I would expect it to be a mid, but any previous, if it was like Injustice or MKX, I would expect it to be a low.
yeah,
But I don't know, like we'll see. Either way, it's something that they have to worry about on block, and since it's an ambush, you could be hella
that
plus.
could be
Like
obnoxious. That could be really obnoxious.
just disgustingly plus, and like in the hundreds of frames. Like,
Yeah,
because
and
there's some frost orb, you block. I mean, because it's so slow,
right.
right? So if I've already recovered and you're sitting there waiting to block, and yeah, 273 on plus 273 or whatever, 173, whatever it is.
Yeah, like
But
plus infinite basically. Sony is the same
I
thing, full charge, full screen, or 103 frames.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
So
I expect the animation for that when we see it in the combat cast to be probably a little bit slower than we saw in the trailer, because sometimes the trailer can be a little bit early footage. Maybe I'm wrong, but
we'll see. We'll never know. Like, we've been doing this long enough that we know that it's not until we actually have our hands on it that any sort of determination can be made. But I definitely like what I see. Oh, Mavado also has that OTG like
oh yeah, that's
ambush looking
right.
thing.
That
That's
was
so
interesting.
weird.
Yeah, that's very unique to give an OTG move to a
Were
cameo.
there any OTGs in MK11?
I don't believe so. No, there was lots of them in MKX. I
There
remember.
was like a few in Injustice. Like Superman had the dive OTG setups and stuff.
Right, right. I don't miss those. Thanks for the reminder on that.
Dude, that hurts so bad. Like, he just hits like a truck, right? I mean, he's Superman.
They
Uh,
did nerf that a bit from Injustice One. It was extra dumb in that game, but anyways, you're right. And OT, and it doesn't look like it is a combo extender or anything. He just kind of like kicks them while they're down, which is such like a red dragon thing to do. That's
I
so funny.
I know, but like, what's the point other than just like you need that one extra little hit? Or is there? I noticed in the trailer that I don't think this will like really affect anything, but it does flip them around. So Kung Lao is like head forward now. I'm sounding like a Tekken player. Uh,
Right.
Kung Lao is head towards, feet away, and then he gets hit by the OTG and he spins in the opposite direction and like wakes up backwards. But it's not like that matters in this game.
Not
Uh,
really.
but I'm just thinking about like what it's actually doing, or is it going to set something up? Maybe it's got some absurd hit advantage. It didn't look like anything too special because I'm pretty sure in the trailer that's when Kung Lao just did the YOLO wake up or the
Right.
YOLO up dive kick just to meter burn it so they could showcase his
Showcase
little
the move.
anti-air chest burst thing. Man,
Right.
he's got some badass animations that look like he's like praying or doing like ritualistic like sorts of things.
It's
He looks
pretty.
edgy without being overboard. He looks dark and ominous, but like in a really cool, not like a dad trying to relate to the coolness of his teenage son sort of thing, but somebody that's actually in the know. Like, it looks really good, I think.
I think so. As a Quan Chi player, one thing that I do with my combos is I will sometimes sacrifice just a little bit of damage to get a little bit more hit advantage. So if I had something like that Mavado cameo OTG to give me even more hit advantage on like the setup that I need to get a certain setup that might not be otherwise able to do. Like for example, my forward 4/4, if I do it off a combo, I'm plus 57, I think, hit advantage, which is enough for me to safely set up a portal. So if I had extra hit advantage from the Mavado move, then maybe I could set up a portal and jail it into skulls or something like that. I think
But you've got the time to move the portal and all that stuff too with more hit
exactly.
advantage, right? Get it
Yeah.
in
So it could be used for things like
position.
that. Get things on
What do
screen.
you how do you see yourself? So this is a serious question.
Uh-oh.
Other than memes, how do you see yourself using the little collision cameo move
I
where Mavado comes out and just slams the two of them together? That shit is so funny.
That
Like,
is
but
hilarious.
how would you ever
I
like
don't
what's going through your mind? Like what's the play, right? What's the read? Like when it's like that's the answer. What's the read?
I would have to see what the properties are on the move, I guess. Like, I
Uh,
love that throwback because that's like a shout out to, Cabal from MK Deception. He has that move, which is so funny. But I guess I don't know. Like, at this point, I would just say memes. But like, does it do damage to both players? I don't know. I have no idea. Like, that would be funny if it did damage to both, and it would be a hilarious way to end a match if you have the health lead and you just like boink together, right? Like, that'd be super trolly.
Dude, that's all I'm kind of like. I'm just thinking about like practical application. It'll be interesting. He looks really cool, and if this reversal slash push block slash whatever we're calling it, right? Like if it belongs to Mavado and not like a universal sort of like mechanic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's an interesting topic too. So most people have caught it or either seen footage of it, but there is a move where it looks like the character clearly blocks, like Ermac clearly blocks, but then Mavado and Ermac, they both kind of flash, and then Mavado comes out and kicks. I think it's General Shao
it
away.
looks like an alpha counter or a drive reversal or something. Obviously, like a push block sort of thing.
Yeah, like push block from
Uh,
Injustice
in
games.
my in my opinion, and it comes after a flawless block flash. So I think it's going to require a flawless block.
So you think that you perform a flawless block and then you're able to do a push block after
I would
that?
think the way that I'm thinking about it, like the more I think about it and have read some other people kind of talking about it, think about it as like an up three. Whether or not it does damage, who knows, right? But
Right.
you flawless block, and then that's what you can do in that window. You don't get a full combo; you just get out of pressure. And I'm going to assume the cameo's got to be available since cameo's in the animation, right? So like Fatal Blow and Breaker.
Right.
Question is, what kind of resources is it going to use? Because we had block breakers at MKX, but it took all 3 bars of meter.
Yeah, it was super expensive and you never
It
saw
was
it
never
used.
worth it, and it was almost too cheap in Injustice.
Yeah, yeah, one
1
bar.
out of 4 bars.
Yeah, that was. They definitely has some issues balancing it. So I wonder if I would. My theory is that it would be tied to the cameo somehow. So maybe take some cameo meter, since it looked like the cameo is the one that actually did the function. So maybe if it's just a Movado thing, like that's
But he's
Movado's
S
thing.
tier cameo, right?
He is
That alone would be
absolutely.
worth picking him,
Yeah, so
picking him for.
I don't really, that seems a little bit too powerful to have for just one cameo.
Right, but when Spawn was released in MK11, he was the only character in the game that was a Spawn thing, right? He could break armor to extend his
Right,
combo
that's
if he
true.
had to read on your armor. And because of the reception, like, oh my god, why doesn't everybody have this sort of like counterplay? And then they gave it to, well, I say they gave it to everybody. So, not all, like most things in that game. Not They were not all
Yeah,
created
not
equal.
everything
And
was
they had
created
to all
equal.
be like little unique little, you know,
This
things
move
for
does
every
this.
character. And some were just like,
Nobody even
oh,
uses this move. Why does this exist? Like what?
oh my gosh, like whatever. That's a whole different topic, but I could see them doing that. Like once they've seen, because that's what everybody's talking about it. They're talking about that at least as much as they are Ermac himself.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree.
they're talking about that more than they're talking about like Reptile's new moves. But now that we've got that's a whole nother bag of worms. The little hint about other characters that are getting new moves.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point to switch over to because I think we've covered most of Movado. And since I've actually made my list, we've got some pretty much confirmed here from Stephanie that Scorpion, Reptile, and Rain, at least that's very, very clearly what she's hinting at, are getting some new moves. Just straight up responding to somebody asking who else is getting new moves, and just the little emojis, right? So I'm was kind of racking my brain and thinking about what new moves could you give these characters? And I'm trying to think of moves over the years that they've had, maybe in different games or something like that. And my brain is not super creative. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't really think of
Do you think
much
do
at
you
all.
think the new reptile ball, do you think that's replacing his spit move, or do you think that's a new move? Do you think they're just kind of like making the regular spit, like giving, like, now it can go full screen and it's more of like a traditional spit ball? Because he's
Uh,
had ball before. He's had force balls plus the ball plus spit, right?
right. So I mean, it wouldn't be the first time they've done that for sure. So I could see that because I don't know. I don't really see too many reptile players using that move as it is, kind of.
I don't think
So
it's very good. I'm not
I'm
a reptile player, but I would
no.
guess basically on that observation, it's not very good because I agree.
Yeah, and Shujinko steals that move, and I never use that move as Shujinko because it's just not very good. So I would assume that reptile players maybe feel the same way. They can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that's probably a change. Just changing it from just the straight little blast to like a full screen kind of presence. Because he does have the force balls, but they're not exactly the same thing. Although I'm wondering if they hit twice, which is kind of weird. So I'm not sure if that's intended or not. They might take that away. I could, maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe it's supposed to be that way. Is it supposed to like armor break or something?
Yeah, it can in some
Like
instances.
meaty
So,
force balls or something?
but yeah, I'm not
I have
really
no
sure.
idea. I'm
There's
not a
been
reptile player.
there's been a lot of a few patches since the games came out, and it's always kind of stayed the same way. So it'll be kind of interesting to see. So we had that move, and then we also looked like he had his teleport cancel, which looked like he started to do his little teleport drop, and then he canceled out of it, which is very interesting because there's already kind of a guess on that on the jump, isn't there? I haven't really played around with Reptile too much, but pretty sure he can cancel that out of his jump. I wonder if he can air cancel his teleport out of a jump air teleport. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense?
I was watching Honeybee stream yesterday a little bit,
Yeah.
and this man was using Janet Cage, opponent cornered, right? So just the regular Honeybee silly business, right? The way he'll do like an invisibility setup, but then he'll bring out Janet with the wall. So your back's to the corner and Janet's right in front of you, and he's completely invisible. Talk about like an extra
Oh
little.
man,
Uh,
that's so
so
cheap.
I can't even imagine what he's going to do with some of like if there's tech to be found. There's lots of good reptile players out there. He streams a lot,
Yeah, I think
like
he's
almost
almost
every day. I
daily.
feel like so. If anyone's curious, he's always out there. But there's lots of Twitter tech, right? Mike Metro? No, he plays Johnny Cage.
Yeah, cage
Costner
player.
plays Reptile.
Costner, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to be seeing lots of tech, and I think that character is definitely going to get some help with the moves that I've seen. Rain is an interesting one for me because I never really saw many people asking for Rain buffs. I mean, I could be wrong. Rain did win the first Pro League event, so I mean, there's that. But I don't really know what they would give him either. If I had to guess, I'd say they'd give him something that's a little bit more, um, like a more classic Rain type move, like a lightning or something like that, perhaps. I don't
Mr.
think
Aquaman posted something earlier today. It was earlier today or yesterday, saying that there was a move in the Rain trailer pre-release that never made it to the game. So he's speculating that he might get that back. It was like an EX teleport
Oh, I did
that he
see
could
that.
do like
Yes.
after something.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
he can
so
just
that could be
teleport
it.
to the location rather than
Who
having to
knows?
set
They're
up the
probably just
portals.
looking at usage statistics and stuff, and like, why is rain so low? And then maybe they're just, watching some stuff, and they're like, that's not, that's not really what we had, in mind or something. Maybe you just need like a little. I mean, if that's how you're gonna play it, then we're gonna give you one more little piece or something. Or maybe they were too cautious. They thought it'd be too broke with it. But now the meta's a little settled, and he's so far left in the dust. They're like, okay, let's like probably that Quan portal, right? That probably existed. That wasn't like an afterthought, like, oh, he probably needs something else. That was probably like, well, let's maybe sit on this one
Just see how it
and
goes.
see how things work out for him, because we don't want him coming out too crazy.
It could be like a QA thing as well, where they're testing it, and then right before release or a little bit before release, they're like, okay, actually we found this crazy easy broken infinite, so let's just remove this move
Right.
for now until we can fix that, and then we'll put it back in.
That's way more plausible than anything that I was saying.
Well, I'm just speculating. I don't know for
Oh,
sure.
me too.
And then, so do you have any thoughts for anything to do with Scorpion? Like, what could they do with Scorpion? He has all of his classic moves. He has his Hellfire. Like, what new
What does
could
he
they
have
give him?
before? He doesn't. He does. Oh, he does have the dash thing, right? His
Yeah, he
back
does have the
forward
dash.
too.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a fireball, like
I don't think he needs that.
what did he have in MKX that he does not have now?
I mean, he had the run cancels, so that was pretty. And then the ninjutsu swords, which I don't.
God.
I think that would be a little bit too much of a redesign to.
He had that custom move in MK11 that gave him the neutral jump punch launch from MKX. That would be cool if they gave that to him as like a unique thing. That's something Scorpion
Oh yeah, that would be
gets to
cool.
have, right? He gets a neutral jump punch.
That would be cool.
Scorpion's cool, like as a character, and I like his design and stuff, like the way that he looks. But he plays so dry.
Yeah, he's
I
kind
gave
of
him
boring.
like a good go. I was like, I could see, I could play Scorpion in this game. He seems like cool enough or whatever. Like if I can find a rhythm with him and stuff. But I just found his gameplay was not what I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean I've always liked Scorpion as a character, but he's never been really my type of character to want to play, so I don't really know what they would give him, but it'll probably be something
Oh,
unique.
do you want? What about the stance from MK11? That would be sick.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Give him a
Dude, so your
stance?
frames on block, right? So you're guessing low, or he's got the little mid poke thing, and then he's
Yeah,
got the cancels and all.
that
Man,
would
that
be
would be
neat.
awesome.
That would be pretty neat. Give him something, because right now he's not very scary at all.
What was that called? That stance from MK11? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't remember. I remember it was something stance, I think. But that's about as much as I remember. So,
Well,
like Hellborn stance, I don't know. Someone in the comments will probably remind us. But what I am the most excited for in this patch, for me personally, being selfish here, is Shujinko buffs. Like, I can't wait for Shujinko buffs. I want to
right.
see what they do with him. I've been saying all sorts of feedback to everybody, and what I would change and what I would do. And from what I can see, they're hinting at meditation, but I don't know if they're just hinting at that, just saying Shujinko in general, or if they're going to be doing something with his meditation.
So for people that haven't been part of this conversations before, or don't catch your streams, or haven't heard this like specifically, right? Can you summarize just very like really briefly like your top 3 points or something, the most salient issues you see with Shujinko?
Yeah, like the one is this: the main issue is his inconsistency in matchups, because I want him to be a cameo that I could use across the board and not be, completely handicapped in some matchups. Like his steals against Reiko, one is almost completely useless. It's a parry where he stands behind you for the most part, so it's hard to even get it to.
Okay, so that's like maybe they didn't think that one through, right? Like
Definitely
that's not
not.
that the bad idea was the parry, but maybe the positioning or something. Okay, so what
Exactly.
would you take from Reiko? What would you replace that with that you think is still fair and balanced?
So, I mean, I don't know if my suggestion. I'm not a QA tester, so take that with a grain of salt. But I think
I'll
that.
tell you if your idea sucks. You
Oh
lay it
yeah, I
on
know
me.
you will. I know you will.
Okay.
I think that his full steal for his full bar should be the throwing stars from Reiko. I don't think that would be too overpowered.
For
Because
full bar?
full bar, yeah. And I don't know. I think stealing the enhanced throwing stars might be a little bit much. But Shujinko is the character which is everything you can do, I can do better. So I mean, that wouldn't surprise me if it was the enhanced stars. That
What other
might.
characters does he steal projectiles from?
Most of them, actually. He steals the skull from Quan Chi. He steals Baraka's projectile. He steals Ashra's projectile. So, but none of them are like, or very few of them are the back one. Liu Kang would be an exception because that is a combo launcher, right? So that would be an exception. But like matchups like that, where like you have one steal, which is like, why would I ever use this? Havoc is an example of a matchup that's actually really one of his better ones, because he steals the torso spin and it's +4 on block, and then
Instead of like -37.
exactly, and it's got lots of pushback.
Last hit always fucking whiffs.
And then
Yeah,
he also steals that big projectile that takes forever to go on screen, which is also really useful and really plus on block.
that's a
So
lot of space control.
exactly. So things like that is where like I think he could shine. Baraka he doesn't steal much. So that would be like a main way I'd like to see him balanced is like just changing the moves or adjusting the moves a little bit to what they to something that makes him worth picking in those matchups. And I know that cameos aren't necessarily meant to be used in every single matchup. I get that. But he just seems that Shujinko is just so far of an exception to that. I would love to see that fixed. And I think if you adjusted those in certain ways, I think the cameo would be fine otherwise. Some people are saying that they'd like to see him you start the match with him fully charged, which
No,
I think that's too much because
yeah.
you can get into situations where you charge him as you're comboing, so you just would never have Shujinko on cooldown, or very rarely. But I think
You
that
just
would
have
be a
so
little bit
many
much.
options, right? You got to choose how far he runs, and you can do the low one or the mid one or the fast one or the whatever, and call him back whenever. And like you said, you're charging him in the middle of combos to just use him again in that same combo.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're fighting against Sub-Zero, depending on the character that you are, you do the freeze Sub-Zero, call Shujinko out, do your combo. Quan Chi can do this, and send Shujinko away, and then use half of Shujinko Steel to end the combo for even more damage, which is
Right.
pretty nuts. So I don't think that that would necessarily be a change. He could meditate maybe a little bit faster, but again, there are times where I want to use him as like a meat shield or something like that, or just to confuse the opponent by like, if you're playing neutral and all of a sudden Shujinko goes running across the screen, people are like, well, hold on,
It's
what's
so
happening?
funny. Like you just sit there and stare at it and just like let it happen. Like remember,
I know, right?
I was like, look how slow my standing one comes out when I try to react. He's already passed me. Like by the time I even press the button. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Maybe they could give him like a third because he has the APEP punch and the conquest kick. They could give him like a third unique move that's maybe a little bit more useful than those two somehow. I don't really know what it would be, um, but that's something else I could see them doing. But I think the main thing is just his steals need to be adjusted a little bit more, be a little bit more in line with if they want people using him more consistently.
Oh, I have one last Mavado thought. Well, sort of.
All right, let's do it.
Spawned by Mavado, but what's your opinions? I already know the answer because we already talked about this, but for everybody else or whatever, what's your opinion on like his cameo fatality?
I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I love how true to form to the original one it was. Uh, it's great. It's basic. It's easy. It uses what's unique about the character. I love it. I'm such a big fan, and I'm excited to see it back. He's such a he's such an edge lord in this one. Like he's just like edgy boy. I like with the way his hair is and stuff. I mean,
Like Gortash in Baldur's Gate.
yeah,
Or but I love the simplicity of the cameo fatalities and their brutals and stuff, and I wish they'd do that more. I think we were talking about last time, like just there's just so much like time and resources put into like these cinematic fatal blows and fatalities or whatever that like lose their novelty after you've just like seen them a couple times.
right.
And the stuff like so like Janet Cage is the same way, right? It's just the Johnny Cage uppercut fatality, but it just translates well to this platform. And she I'm pretty smitten with her. I feel like she's a super charming sort of character. Her brutal, is it her throw brutal, where she kicks you in the nuts and you bleed out your
Yes,
eyeballs,
yes, that's
and
hilarious.
then she puts her sunglasses on you, like,
That is so
uh,
funny. That is perfect.
but I stuff like that gives me like confidence, right? Like that's the kind of like tone that fits that sort of thing. Like for as confusing it is sometimes whether or not they know their own characters, like especially during like story and stuff, like those are the sorts of like moments where it's like, okay, yeah, this is I
Yeah,
think they did her very well. I like all of the cameo fatalities, the simplistic ones. They all have their little charm to them. The Mavado one as well. Even though it's a little silly, it's one of the campier ones.
for sure.
Uh we didn't talk about the Ermac fatality, which is probably the coolest fatality in the history of fatalities, at least for me. I That is like top tier, easily like a top 10 of all time. If I really thought about it, it'd probably be better than that.
Yeah, Ermac's fatality is that is just something I never would have thought of in like all my years. If I had to create a fatality, that is not one that I ever would have thought of. just like twisting around, like reverse clock thingy going, and then just puts them all back together in a little ball.
It's very ritualistic, right? Like the hanging, and it's like the sigil sort of thing, and it does start spinning you around. I didn't even catch it the first time that it put the legs on top and the arms on the bottom. I just
Yeah,
thought like the clump of flesh with the head on top. And I've complained about some fatalities before where I feel like they're just so. I feel so arbitrary how gross they try to be sometimes. Like
yeah,
Gears' skin peel one and MK11, and it's just kind of like, it's not even cool or like clever. You're just trying to be like gross. And I don't like a lot of the ones that have intestines and stuff like that. I feel like they all kind of like suffer from that. This
yeah,
one is like walking the line of that, but it's cool. And it would be maybe a little silly and a little campy if it wasn't so gross without like crossing that line into like arbitrary grossness for the sake of it.
yeah.
So I would love to see the storyboard for that fatality. If anyone out there's listening,
Give us
I
the
would.
storyboard.
Oh my god, that would be so cool to see how they like map that all out.
So one of the things that happened since the last time we talked, was that when Janet dropped with that patch, there was huge netcode issues. Like right now, the netcode is the worst it's been since the game was released, and the netcode hasn't been great. And it's been to the point where the pro comp online event was delayed almost a month,
But they
which
weren't going to. At first, they said they weren't going to.
they were
Remember,
going
and
to go.
then they
Yeah,
changed it,
and
and they
that
said
was
that the Peacemaker Eagly thing was a known bug or something, but that they were going to let it rock because they knew they weren't going to be able to fix it in time.
yeah. They which is funny because they sent out a patch earlier saying that it was trying to fix it and it didn't. So, and they were going to go ahead with it, and it was like literally 2 days before the pro comp event. They're like, you know what? We're actually just going to delay this by a month, so we can fix some stuff. The Eagly glitch has seemingly now been fixed. They must have done a hot fix or something because I don't believe I got any patch and it doesn't work anymore. So that's nice. And Mr. Aqua did say in the Coliseum Discord that a netcode update is coming with the patch on Tuesday. I just kind of hope it's not a revert to before Janet and it's just a general fix of everything that's been a problem since the start of the game's release. Because that was a big thing, again, being sandwiched between the two games. We've talked about that with all three of the big fighting games. NRS MK1 having the worst netcode, and it's not even close. So I hope that something like that drops with Tuesday and makes the game playable for a lot of people that are just saying like, "Hey, is your netcode fixed? I'll play it every day if you fix it." Like, come on, I don't want to play in this though.
We'll see. Like I can barely even tell sometimes because I feel like it's so consistently bad for me. It depends who I play.
Right.
Because you're not connected like peer to peer like in previous games. At least this is like how it was explained to me and like what I understand. So people are connecting to servers now instead of like to each other. So when I'm playing Loot, who lives in Germany, and I
Yeah.
live in the Western United States, I'm Western NA. When you have that much of a distance, if he invites me, we're on a server that's close to him, and my connection suffers. Like what I see, like when he's like dash blocking and stuff like that, it's like a fucking strobe light, like on my screen, right?
Right.
Like these little like stop motion sort of thing. But if I invite him, it's the exact opposite. So this is anecdotal, but anyway, I think that's probably what a lot of the issue, and that was a decision they made way far, and they have all the way far in advance, right? And they have the infrastructure and all that sort of thing to like change that in the middle of everything. I think that's what's going on with the we've seen a lot of what's happening in Africa. Like they've got people that live next door to them and they're getting 350 ping trying to
Right.
invite them online, right? Because the closest servers in, I don't know, fucking Turkey or something. I have no idea.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the African players in the African community saying like, please fix this. Like, we want to play your game, but we just can't. Like, it's just not working. So I don't really know from a logistical standpoint how they would fix something like that. Maybe having like one big central server, but then like everyone suffers. So like, I don't. You'll all suffer equally. I
I
don't.
don't know.
I
I
don't know.
feel who knows like what's going on, and if it had something to do with crossplay, they want to implement crossplay, so they have to have some sort of like crossover, right? Some sort of central thing for. I mean, it's your WB Play account and linking it across your platforms and stuff, but there's still it's like if you play Street Fighter, it's the same thing on the Capcom site.
Right.
things like that. We'll see.
I'm
We'll see what happens with the netcode.
I'm optimistic. I hope it just doesn't get worse. At this point, I don't know how it can, but we'll have to wait and see on Tuesday. I actually have Tuesday off, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's cool. Not me.
So one thing that came up recently, I believe Tekken Master brought this up, was the up block mechanic, saying that he felt it was too strong and that not enough people are abusing it, and he doesn't like it. It should go away. And it
Right.
sparked a whole debate about people, a lot of people, and even Rewind disagreeing with him, saying, I don't think that's the case at all. You know, people
There's
were,
people agreeing with him as well, but kind of for different reasons, but maybe the same reasons, but articulated a different way. That made
yeah,
me understand it better, because the way Tekken Master was arguing about it, I was like, bro, like, all right, top tier problem, or top tier privilege problem, right?
yeah,
You just
right,
want to jump down people, and you're mad that they can punish you for doing that. Like, what's the big deal? I was watching Zombat talk about it, like he has a video talking about the changes he hopes come in the balance patch, and upblock was one of them. And he was kind of agreeing with Tekken Master. He's like, the mind game is just kind of like lame. It's like, you think about it, like you're playing Street Fighter and somebody jumps at you, and you have to react to anti-air, right? You're doing a DP, forward, down, forward, into your button.
yeah.
Or in Mortal Kombat, even if you're just reacting with a down two, like hitting the up button while you're holding block anyway, and so just hitting the up button is too much reward for the reaction, is what he's saying. He's like, you could just fix it by just adding a bunch of scaling to it, right? If your 30% combo now does 20%, or something like that, to kind of like even it out, is what would make him happy, he was saying. But well, how do you feel about that? I know you're a proponent of the up block.
I actually I think it's fine. I think it's perfectly balanced. It doesn't, you have to use it responsibly or you can get really blown up for it. Like
No,
especially against like,
I really blown up. You mean eating a throw for 17%?
I mean, not even that though. Like if Sonya throws you, it's 210. If Jax throws you, you want to spend some meter, 300 damage, for something like that.
That's
So
true.
I mean, it depends on the scenario, right? But you take a little bit of extra damage, and as far as I know, you aren't able to tech those throws, so that would just be what you could hit, and that's not even. I haven't even looked into like characters like Liu Kang and Kung Lao, for example. He gets a combo off of the throw in that scenario, so you get increased damage on that. I don't know about the whole combo or just the throw itself, but I think that there's like a good risk reward factor to it. And there are some moves in the game, like Johnny Cage's jump kick, that I can't for the life of me consistently anti-air. Sometimes my anti-airs work, sometimes they don't. But up block always works. And
Right.
I like that. Where I like the feature more is like knowledge checks and strings and stuff like that. Like you can up block this one string and it becomes punishable where otherwise it wouldn't be. Maybe it's -5 or 0 or something like that, but you up block it and now it's punishable. I really like things like that, but you don't really see that as much because once people find out that move has an unblockable strategy, they just kind of stop using that move, which I
Right.
think could be a negative component of that. But
Well, if you're looking for, so that's, parts of some people's mind game is to give you something like that to think about, and then they'll never do it again, right? But you're always like fishing for it, always fishing
yeah,
for the block or whatever. Yeah, interesting. So say like let's say you won a game 2-1, so it went 3 rounds, and you successfully up blocked and punished once per round, so 3 times. How
right.
many times in that same game did you up block and they empty jumped, or they baited it to throw you or something?
Yeah,
Like, it didn't work out for you.
yeah, and I mean that's where it really comes down to reading your opponents and just kind of saying how outblock happy people actually are, and there's probably a matchup aspect to it too, where I'm going to outblock this character, like I just mentioned, Johnny Cage. I'm going to be trying to outblock him every time because I can't anti-air him consistently, at least with Quan Chi. But I mean, then that kind of goes back and forth between you and your opponent, how much you want to say, okay, you baited my up block and you threw me for damage, and now this time I'm going to anti-air you because I know you're going to empty jump. And I like that mind game. I think that's really strong guessing from both sides because most of the time anti-air combos aren't the hugest damage. This obviously varies from character to character, but in my experience, there's not going to be like a 400 to 500 damage combo you would get if you're grounded, kind of a thing. So,
You
although
don't even need to like standing one anti-air and then dash in and do a combo like most characters, because your standing one goes right into your regular launcher and you can do the exact same combo.
that's true. That's kind of nice. It is kind of nice.
Quan Chi privilege.
He's solid mid
Weird
tier.
scaling or anything, right?
Yeah, it's well. You have to do it a little bit of a you can't do the optimal off an anti-air, which is the double jump. I don't believe you have to do the shorter version, which is a little bit less damage. But I mean, the input's
Right.
pretty much the same, so it is kind of nice. But I don't know. I like it as a whole. I don't think it's too overpowered. I don't think it's really too weak. That's just my opinion on it. Wouldn't really be mad if they changed it either way. If they buffed it or nerfed it, it wouldn't really matter too much to me. There's too much other stuff going on in the game for me to think that that's one of the major problems, if I'm being honest.
Here's the thing. I feel like in Mortal Kombat 1, right, for like a lot of us, like a lot of people listening to this right now, jumping is like one of what 4 to 11 or whatever like options, right, depending on your spacing or like what else is like going on. For other players, jumping is one of one option, right? It's what
Right.
they
Right.
that they always do, what they always want to do. So I think it's good that can kind of like there's ways to shut that down, because it can get really overbearing sometimes. Just to like I am the worst at that, right? If someone just literally holds up forward on me and just jump kicks or whatever, I cannot get out of that shit for the life. Like, dude, and that's how like in Street Fighter, I finally started like they're like, okay, well, you kind of like jump backwards, do a jump backwards punch in Street Fighter, kind of get out of that. That's the kind of shit that I'm always like thinking about now. But when I was learning Street Fighter, and there's players saying like jumping's not necessarily like scrubby, right? People need to understand that jumping is a threat. And in order to
100%.
establish that as a threat, you have to do it sometimes. It just can't be your game plan, but it's absolutely a non-scrubby component. I mean, they exist for a reason, right?
It's got its place for sure, and I mean that's usually when I do lessons with people, that's the number one thing that I test for is like there's what I call the jump zone, where it's just like where a perfectly arced jump punch would land. And I'll just
I'm
hang
aware.
out. I'll just hang out in that zone and just see how many times you're just gonna jump at me. And just test it over and over again, you know?
Dude, and Kwan's so good in that zone too, right? Because he's got the standing 3.
Yeah, so
It's
obnoxious.
just so good.
Yeah. So I mean, and traversing that space is really really tough, and it takes some strong fundamentals to get used to it and know what your character can do. So, but I agree with you that it does like something like that would be very good to like stop people from doing that. And anything that kind of enforces stronger gameplay, I'm definitely I'm a supporter of that. I think that's good.
Buffalo's opinion, I was reading on Twitter. If you don't, everyone should know who Buffalo is on Twitter. I think he's called what is it? Erect observant, erect observer or something. He was toilet pube up until
That
this
was
last one.
that was the last time that I saw him. I don't know
Yeah.
what he is these days.
I'm gonna paraphrase, right? But it was basically like learn to anti-air. Like it's okay if some characters have bad anti-airs, and that's just like part of like their kit, like part of like what balances them out.
Right.
You don't need to be able to anti-air, and it's something that you should have to like work for. And up block takes away a lot of that counterplay, and it's just kind of like lazy and casual friendly. Was basically the sentiment. So I kind of like see both sides to it. I don't think it's one of those things that's not going to make anybody happy, because
Yeah.
people are used to playing a certain way. You see it all over Tekken right now. A lot of legacy players having a lot of problems because this game, the new one, does not play like the old one. Um,
Yeah, it's funny that way. I've seen a lot of kind of Tekken bashing on my timeline recently. I thought that game was pretty solid.
the honeymoon phase is over, right? They've turned on it like it always
Yep.
happens.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh
But
well.
that's fighting games for you.
Yeah, I mean Street
So
Street Fighter 6 seems to have a pretty clean record so far. I haven't seen too much complaining. Even like we were talking about the battle pass and stuff, how it's not super predatory. So, I mean, maybe that wins out of the top 3. I would say as of this point, anyways. And like on that note, it's interesting with this patch coming up that actually Ed Boon is starting to tweet again and like consistently again. Like
he feels safe to tweet again, right? Like, okay, people are done being and you can tell that the bubble, the negative bubble's kind of burst, right?
yeah,
Not that it got too far. It was too hyperbolic, and I feel like everyone had kind of have enough of it. And we kind of talked about it last time. I feel like that was at the very kind of like tail end of that sort of thing. And since we discussed that, I can totally feel a different sort of like vibe in the air when people are just talking about Mortal Kombat in general.
I'm
So
I'm hoping, and this is a little bit might be a little bit too optimistic of me, but I'm hoping with how much of the NRS development team has been tweeting and engaging, including Ed Boon himself with this patch, that this is a big one. Like this, I'm hoping that this is similar to like what a day one patch should have been for them, like to kind of bring the game up to what they wanted it to be at launch. Maybe I'm not expecting like, crossplay King of the Hills, or they're just gonna be like, hey, the Warrior Shrine is now available, but maybe we'll have more information with this going alongside it of what those things are, or a timeline of those things, big netcode fixes, big balance patches, things like that, because they're all talking about it and retweeting stuff, and this is the most engagement I've seen from them in quite some time in regards to just a patch.
and allowing 16-bit to just say on Twitter, like, yeah, just give away,
Tell them exactly what we're doing,
yeah. But do you think it's just those three characters, or that's just like the tease? Because I was, how like Quan got the new portal and stuff. That's how I'm used to like NRS doing things. When they add things, I feel like it's just like piecemealed, a little thing here, a little bit there.
Yeah, I'm not.
Not like a big, huge shakeup all at once, except for what, like the MKXL patch or something.
Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if there was they might just be hints at what characters are getting some new moves, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a very large balance patch across the board for a lot of things that, maybe those are just the characters that are getting new moves, whereas other characters are getting balanced to the point where they might essentially gain a new move from a move that wasn't very useful before, kind of idea. So there's always those kind of
Dude,
aspects as well.
what if Quan Chi gets nerfed?
And I would be so sad. I really don't see them doing that though, but I mean, in a perfect world, in my perfect world, he stays exactly how he is right now. He just stays untouched. I don't think he needs anything. Everyone's always, oh yeah, he's slow
No.
up close. But yeah, he's
This
supposed
is
to be slow. He's a zoner. He's supposed to be slow
right.
up close.
This game needs to get to the point to where current Quan Chi is low mid tier. He's got to be the classic Quan low tier character, right? He's very good spot. I think he's really strong in this game. So you bring everybody, because he feels fun. He feels like more complete. He's got like, I've been going through the whole roster trying to like learn a couple combos with every character, just try to give them a chance and stuff again. And just going through some of these characters, and they just, what are we doing here? Like,
And
I
Quan's
don't
like
know.
so set up reward, like you get rewarded for having good zoning and good keep away. And then
And he
if you
just
let
feels
them,
fun. His inputs don't feel annoying. Well, a couple of them do, but
yeah, he's
you
not super
have to
bad.
like work for it. But it's not bad. It feels really fun.
And then once you get him in the corner with your armor up, I mean, that kind of negates his slow moves to a certain extent because you have everything's armored now. So, I mean, you just kind of go for it, which is the last couple streams, I've just been throwing out his fully enhanced or like fully charged overhead, and it's got like a 90% hit rate. Everyone gets hit by that thing, and I don't know why.
I've seen Foxy been doing it to people too, and they
Yeah.
get really salty. They're on the mic like, "Oh yeah, sweet mix up, bruh," and it's like, "Oh, you're getting fucking hit by it."
Yeah, I mean, you're getting hit by like a.
Look at it, it's kind of like, man, Quan Chi's got some smooth armpits. He's shaving those things. I guess he doesn't have any hair. All right,
No,
no
he doesn't.
eyebrows or anything.
Doesn't He's not a hairy boy. He's not rocking any
Is
beard.
he a hairless individual?
I mean, as far as I know, I don't think I've seen a game where he's, rocking a
He's got
mullet
like
or anything.
he's got like the Zangief chest hair, like poking out his sorcerer robe.
just
Just
flailing,
imagine.
just flailing in the wind. Just
Oh, just imagine it's all shiny from all the sweat and stuff and oil
oh
down there
man.
in the nether realm.
I mean, this probably is little hot and spicy down there. I think this brings me to our last topic, which is just kind of a fun thing to bring up. Is that there's a website that's been around since I believe 2008 or 2009 called TestYourMight.com, and it was
Never heard of it. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's it was recently purchased by Mr. Aqua, so he's going to be the one that's running things, and I think if he does everything correctly, he might actually bring some life back to that site, because there was one point in time where that's where you needed to go for your Mortal Kombat information. Like in MK9, they didn't have frame data.
Pre-Discord. Yeah,
Yeah,
pre-Discord and
pre-Discord.
pre-Twitter and yeah, pre-frame data in games.
Yeah, because there was somberness on the Test Your Might forums who went through and found the frame data and posted the frame data just in the forums for everyone to see, and that individual changed that game's lifespan. Like I think so many players got so much better just at fighting games in general, just having that knowledge. So it'll really be interesting to see if it is a little bit of an older thing, like it's more of a forum, which I actually I'm old, so like take this as it is, but I prefer that a little bit because I find that if I post stuff in Discord, it then tends to get buried pretty quickly.
It's just it doesn't matter what you try to do to pin or do whatever. It's definitely
Yeah, it
way
disappears.
easier.
And then on Test Your Might, you could just say, okay, combos are on page 1, or maybe there's a new combo on page 4 or something like that, and you just kind of scroll
It's
through it.
really good about telling you. So I've been a Test Your Might user since I think I finally signed up in 2017, leading up to Injustice 2. It's very good about keeping you. I'm an old man, right? Back when forums were like what we had, even before then, like IRC and all that sort of stuff. So I love the format. It's something I'm really comfortable with anyway. But it's very good at kind of like, here's the threads that you've been looking at, or even mark them or whatever. I think, right, and all the new stuff that kind of comes in. It's like just developing your own little news feed, like following your topics or doing whatever. And
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool, and I mean, uh, in a future episode, I could go on about like my history on forums and how I started back in 2004 on Mortal Kombat Online and how everything changed and evolved and eventually got to TestYourMight.com. That's a long history story, but it's an interesting one for another day. But it's just cool to see something like that can still stick around. It stands the test of time or whatever they say, or maybe it doesn't and it'll die. I don't know, but if anyone's gonna make it. Bring it up to what it was. I think Mr. Aqua can do it. So I'm looking
yeah,
forward.
I hope it does well. I logged in as soon as I heard the news. I logged in for the first time. My last thing was talking about Evo in 2019, so that's probably about the last time I was around those parts.
Yeah, I've definitely been checking out a little bit more too. Pretty exciting. So yeah, if you haven't already, just if you're bored, just open a browser and check it out. If you haven't, you might find something interesting there.
You want to play a game? Yeah, I've got a. This is my hater Jeopardy, but not Jeopardy or whatever. I've got a couple
Oh,
categories for you, and you choose a value from each category. I present the question, and then you give an answer. You don't need to do it like answer it in the form of a question like Jeopardy, but that's kind of like how do you feel about that?
okay. I'm not great at Jeopardy, but I want to do this because I will either look so smart or just the dumbest ever.
Okay,
Let's do
well
it.
you're the only one that's playing, right? You don't have any other contestants, so I'm
Perfect. I
the
win by default.
That's
Easy.
what okay, right? And this is like, dude, I'm just pulling this out of my butt, right? Okay, we got two categories. Which category do you want? First category, MKX. Second category, is it toxic?
Oh, man. Um. Okay. Out of pure curiosity, I gotta pick. Is it toxic?
Okay, well, we got a couple questions here. Do you want is it toxic for 200 or 400?
I'll go big or go home. We'll go 400.
400. Is it toxic to end a game-winning combo with Fatal Blow if your opponent is already at 0 health?
Yes, 100%. It does not get more toxic than that. Well, okay. If you ended a combo on the finish them screen and then did a fatal blow, that would be more toxic than if you
Right.
did.
So in the middle of your combo, freeze frame, finish him. Congratulations, you didn't drop your combo. You continue it and you end that in a fatal blow.
That is toxic. That is incredibly toxic. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that. Or do that if you're a toxic person. That's not me. I don't advocate for toxicity. But if you do that, you're toxic. If you do
Okay.
that.
All right, moving on. Next question. What category do you want? MKX or is it toxic?
Go back to we'll go to MKX. We'll take a little reprieve from the toxicity for now.
All right. What's the most down ones you've ever seen in a single corner combo?
um I'm going to have to say um I'm going to say 7. And it was by Venomous Devora because that was one of her combos because her down one, every time you did it, it stacked a little bit of
Right.
dot damage. So the more down ones you did, it was actually did more damage than doing like an actual combo. I think it was 7 down ones and then 1/1 ovipositor to end, and that was like 40 something% when you get like all the ticks in it for no meter. Is
All right.
that's what comes to my mind. I know that Liu Kang has some obnoxious stuff too, but like just in my mind, because I'm biased because I played that character, but I don't remember seeing any more than that in one combo.
Total Con definitely had some that had a few moments that had like 3 or 4 like
Oh,
all in
that's
a
right.
row, like real quick. But he could also get like the double down, like down to you out of the corner and then pick it up and down to you back into the corner.
That was so stupid.
Shit's so funny. All right, we got one. Okay, there's only one card left on the board, and that's Is It Toxic for 200.
All right, let's hear this.
All right, final question. This one's for the game that you're the only one playing.
I'm winning out of default.
All right. Dink, is it toxic to walk backwards like a bitch the whole match instead of like pressing your opponent in the middle of the dojo like any honorable person would in real life?
Why did I? Oh my god. No, that's not toxic. That's called playing the game, and you need to just get good, scrub. You know.
Okay. Okay.
I'm fighting you.
Sure.
I'm doing it over here. You know. Not.
That's my favorite scrub quote of all time from Tekken 7. This is from like 4 years ago, and somebody saying that all the defense, all the Korean backdashing was it's one of those typical. It's dishonorable, right? An honorable person faces their opponent in the middle of the dojo like they do in real life.
Yeah, I mean that's not how fighting games work. I get that all the time. Unsurprisingly, I'm sure as you know, yeah, you know, you're not even You're not even playing the game properly. It's called a fighting game. You're supposed to fight, and
I am
it's
fighting.
I am fighting. I'm just doing it from over here.
It's Green Skull, bitch.
Yeah, take all these projectiles. You know, not my
I don't
fault. You
care
don't have
about
any
so much. I
projectiles.
mean, I play teleport characters, so I
You don't have to deal with it.
definitely not as much, right? You still have to like think about what's going on. You still have to like find your moment, but I'd rather do that than the inch forward game.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Just pick the right point and teleport, and bam, you're in. Easy. That's why I like
And with
baiting
the
them.
with a little +6
Little +6, little bonus there, little bonus on top.
against Quan, there's can't do anything about that mid that's coming.
Yeah,
Other people can trade.
that's true. It's like plus you got 9 frame advantage at that point, something like that. Anyways, well, that was fun, Hater. I want to do more of that in the future. That was you know, a couple little teaser perhaps for future episode. We have a
I
whole ass.
thought of this like 15 minutes before our call. It was just like an idea that kind of like popped up.
No,
So,
that's good.
well, we'll work on it.
Maybe we can have a whole ass game show with like other contestants and stuff, and just I'll be the host. I was here the
No,
whole time.
and you said on stream the other night that Dark Dink wasn't making a return. Dark Dink was holding out for a specific character. Have
He
you said
is.
who that character is?
I have not. If you know the
No.
history of Dark Dink, that is very obvious. But I have not said what the character is, nor will I say what the character
What,
is.
Dark Side? You want Dark Side in MK1?
I mean, you're on the right track. You're on the right track. So, but Dark Dink will return when he's ready. He's just taking a little bit of a back seat for now. You know, I'm absorbing all the toxicity of Combat League for him, so I can just release him into the world, like filling up Ermac with souls, just so I can release him back and be like, here he is. Do your thing, honey. You know. So
Nobody blocks it.
nobody blocks it. Nobody, I'll fucking blocks it. But he'll
Well,
return.
there's only 2 characters left after Ermac, unless you know something I don't know about Combat Pack 2.
Well, I mean, that gives you a 50-50 chance of guessing what character it is then, so.
Yeah, especially since you said the Dark Side was on the right track.
Yeah. I'm not giving away any answers though. You gotta figure it out for yourself.
It's Homelander.
You didn't hear it here first. You did not hear it. I haven't confirmed anything. We don't know what
It's
Takeda plays later.
Homelander.
Takeda could, you know, Takeda's got some stuff. You
Yeah, he does not seem like a very Dark Dink character.
know?
Dude, you know what? If Dark Dink played Tekken, I bet Lily would be a great Dark Dink character.
Oh man.
Even though that's a regular Dink character, but
Um,
that would be sick.
who cares?
Dark
There could
Dink
be
talking
some.
shit with Lily.
That would be pretty funny. Yeah, I'd love to see him try a French accent. That would be pretty funny.
Man. Yeah.
Uh,
You should write down a bunch of this stuff. You better have a good have a good Dark Dink game once he's out.
yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll get him out here doing a little bit of a test run beforehand. You never know. You never know.
Alright.
It's been a while.
And you got to use the song too. It's the song that it's not the same without the song.
No. As soon as you hear that intro, I see it in the comments all the time. Everyone's like, "Oh, I hear that intro, and I know it's gonna be a good video."
No, it's good branding, right? It's like the camera's on, but nobody's on. It's like, all right, here comes the chair slide. Yep.
Yep, just empty chair in there. So, and if you're listening, you've never seen a Dark Dink video, you can Google it. It's check it out on YouTube. If you find the what was the 20 games one, that was probably one of my favorite Dark Dink videos of all time. In Injustice 2.
That one's a banger.
That still cracks me up every day. Is reading hate comments, I think, in Injustice 2 with Dark Dink.
And it's still like a joke that lives on to this day. It's still like a reference.
Oh, all the time. You can tell how someone's been around since the Injustice 2 days if they make the 20 games reference. So it's a classic. It's a classic for sure.
So before we wrap up here, one thing that we talked about like doing, but that we didn't do was going through like some of the comments from last time and being like, oh yeah, I was definitely wrong about that, or no, that's not really like quite what we were talking about, or like this was a really good idea. Like highlight all the what was that comment about Farah using the pain and gain buff as a cameo?
Yeah,
I was like, oh
that
my
was-
god,
Neither
why
of us
didn't I
thought
think
of that.
about that?
Neither
Oh
of us
my,
thought
that
of that.
was
So
it's like
maybe
my favorite comment in recent memory.
Well, maybe for the next podcast, what we'll do, and if you got this far on the podcast, thank you, appreciate you. Let us know what you think about this. Maybe we'll open the next podcast by just reading our favorite comments that you leave on this podcast, and that'll be a good kind of freestyle talking point before we get into what we actually go on about. Because I feel like they're doing a really good job of giving us lots of stuff to talk about. So I feel like we're bringing the podcast back pretty consistently. So comment down below. Let us know what you think about anything that you heard on the podcast today, and you could be featured on the next one. Get a shout out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, let us know if you have any good Jeopardy questions for Dink.
Oh yeah, we need to make that a regular segment too. There's so many ideas. There's so many ideas here, friends. This is gonna turn into something special.
Real malleable right now, right?
You can kind of mold it.
Who knows what could end up being?
Well, I'll definitely be paying attention to the comments on this one. Let me tell you.
Yeah, they're all gonna be like, "Fuck you, Dink, Zoner."
if they made it this far in the podcast just to comment that, I hear you.
No, they didn't listen to anything. They just came here just to say that. They did. It's the same thing on all your videos.
It's true. There's always those comments. They played me once in Combat League and found my YouTube channel and just comment on the most latest video. It's hilarious and it stands out. But we shouldn't ramble too long. You got all our ideas. Let us know what you think. Hatyr, as usual, thanks for joining me on this. I really appreciate you, friend.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And we'll probably be back after. There's going to be lots to talk on after this patch.
I'm going to give him a good go. I want to learn him, so I'm going to try to learn a lot about him, and I hope I like him.
I think you will. I'd actually be shocked if you didn't, unless he turns out to be like super garbage low tier, but that's not usually a DLC thing.
I would rather have that than have him be like broke, like super meta pick or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, friends. Well, as usual, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like because it really helps me out. And subscribe if you haven't, because I make new videos almost every single day. Hashtag Bonehawks, all that stuff. And we'll see all you Bonehawks in the next video.
Accept your death.